It is the year 10,191. In this time, the most precious substance in the world is the spice melange. The spice only exists on one planet in the entire universe.
Hidden away in the rocks of this planet are a people called the Fremen,
who have long held a prophecy that a man, a messiah, would lead them all to freedom.
There's a worm in my sandbox. Well, it's just gummy.
And that's not him.
In a world filled with intergalactic space battles, metahuman destruction on a global scale, and psychopathic serial hauntings, there's only one team who can make sense of it all. When your world is overrun with rampant pop culture, call Loop and Larry, Guardians of Geek.
Oh yeah!
We are back.
Larry, is that you?
I don't know. I don't know who I am anymore. It's been so long. I don't know. Things have just gone way off the rails for Loop and Larry.
I remember specifically in the last podcast we did. Oh, by the way, this is Loop and Larry, Guardians of Geek, in case you're just joining us and didn't watch the opener.
And who are you?
I am Loop.
And I'm Larry.
There you go. During the last podcast, we said, "Oh, we're definitely gonna do this on a regular basis." I don't know what happened between then and now, but for some reason, we took a month off or two.
You know how life gets in the way there? It got in the way.
Yeah, a little hiatus we took. We're back. We are back.
But,
hopefully we'll be doing more like steady podcasts from here. It got kind of weird there in the summer. I don't know. It just got really busy all of a sudden, and things were happening. Then all of a sudden it was like September and everybody's going back to school, like our kids and things. And then
and then all the geek stuff went out the window, and now we're like, no, we need to geek out. We need to keep geeking.
October just flew by too. I don't know. I was overly consumed during October, so we had a lot going on in October. So it was kind of a crazy month. So so we're doing a little bit of a format change. It is our 4th season of Loop and Larry. As you can see, we have a brand new Indiana Jones inspired logo behind us. There you go. All right.
Because why wouldn't you?
Yeah, every season we do a little bit different logo.
Yeah, we've gone through Star Wars, we've got through Stranger Things, and then some random.
And then we had like our own logo that we usually our standard logo from season 1. So
which we got bored of real quick.
So then we decided to do these more fun ones. So so this is our new season. The format change is pretty much the same. We still got the pop capacitor, which we normally have, but instead of doing the pop 5, we're just going to kind of expand on what we did earlier, which was just talk about things that we're geeking out about for the first bit. So we'll jump through 5 or 6 different topics. Could be 1, could be 7. It just depends on what we're going to talk about this week. Right. I found the problem with the pop 5, which as much as I loved it, if we were doing like weekly podcasts, it would be perfect. But because we're not, it's harder to have that material there and have it like still current when we do the podcast. So
by the time everybody listened to things, it was like common knowledge, all of this pop.
Yeah, and trust me, if you're going to get your news, you're not going to get it from us.
No. No. You're going to get more ridiculous stuff from us.
Yeah, that's true.
The timeless ridiculousness of Loop and Larry.
So, like I said, October, crazy month, lots going on in October. One of the things that we did was Fan Expo came back, which is the Canadian Comic-Con, the biggest one in Canada, in Toronto. And so they tell us a little bit about, Larry, what they did this year, which was different.
Well, so ordinarily they expect around 115,000 people over the 4-day weekend. So obviously the numbers were too big. They couldn't do that. So they had to cut the numbers down. So this year they claim that they limited it to 125,000 people. Or sorry, 25,000 people. They also cut one of the days. So it was only a 3-day weekend. But in doing that, they also had to keep some social distancing. So it's usually held in the Toronto Convention Center. And there are 2 buildings that are filled to capacity with Geek stuff in the north building and the south building. This year they limited all of the vendors to the south building, and then not only that, they cut the south building in half. They extended this wall and cut it in half. So it was, usually they'll have, I would say, probably close to 250, if not more, vendors, maybe 300. I don't, lots. This year, I think it topped out at like 90 or 95. So it was way smaller. But so there was that. So then the north building was just the celebrity autographs and panels. So there were no vendors in the north building. So it was entirely different. Like, it didn't look the same. It felt more like just like a flea market. I heard somebody actually say, this kind of feels like a flea market.
Yeah, totally. Part of the problem I had was that they reduced the number of people, but they also reduced the size of the space. So it felt like there was as many people just in a smaller space.
That's
so
exactly,
I felt that was a little odd. I think they did a good job. I'll say good, but decent job for what they had. I felt like there was a lot of promises that weren't really fulfilled in it, because people that had 4-day passes that bought them 2 years ago, I felt like that you just didn't get as much as you did normally. Like, I feel like you used to get a t-shirt and all sorts of things. Yes. And I mean, I understand it's a pandemic and it's tougher to do it. And I also understand here in Canada, like in Ontario specifically, the laws kept changing. So they probably at one point didn't even know if they were going to be doing it. And then all of a sudden, okay, now we can do it. Okay, now we have enough capacity. Like, there's a whole bunch of these factors that kept changing. So I understand why some things just didn't work probably the way they wanted them to. But the guest list was the thing that I think like everyone was upset about, because there were a lot of cancellations, like way more than I thought there was going to be. Even
up to like the day before. There were guests canceling, or 2 days before the event, there were still guests saying, oh, I'm really sorry, I can't be there now.
Yeah.
It was just like, we went thinking there's not going to be anybody there.
And it was like in large groups too. I said, oh yes, these, just to regret to inform me, these 4 guests can't make it. And I'm like, are you sure you didn't know about this like way earlier? Because you don't just announce 4 guests on the same day that can't make it. Like, there was things like that. Like, it kind of insults your intelligence a little bit. Like, I don't know all the inner workings of Fan Expo, but I thought some of it was just a little bit like, it just was not handled well.
No, and the other telling thing was that they didn't post the floor plan where they usually show where the vendors are and how many vendors there are. They didn't post that until 2 days before Fan Expo started, because I feel like if people had seen that way in advance, they'd have been like, there's barely any vendors. There's nobody here. I'm gonna cancel my ticket. So I think that they like held off on a lot of information just to make sure people didn't cancel. But I also agree that, like, because we had bought tickets, we've had our tickets since 2019. Because we bought them in 2019 for 2020, and 2020 was canceled, so they just kept rolling them over. So we paid full price in 2019 for a full show in 2020, but we got literally half the show, but paid the same price.
Again, like the floor space was too packed for what it was. I don't know. There's just a lot of like problems I felt with it, that enough that I was like, I don't know. They did the best they could, but there was just a lot of skimming and like things promised that just didn't happen.
Yeah. And I almost would rather that they waited one more year. And said, we're going to wait until this thing can be done right. Hang on to your tickets. Next year it's going to be back to full scale. And, I kind of wish they had done that. Now, like, there were a couple of things that I did think were kind of cool. Like I said, the north building was just autographs and panels. So ordinarily they do the same thing in like San Diego. When you have a panel, it's in like a breakaway room someplace, or a big theater or whatever. And usually you have to wait in line for like 3 hours in this lineup just to hopefully get a seat in the theater or someplace. So they took all the panels this year and put them in the wide open north building, like the main floor. So but they didn't put any seats. You could stand or you could sit on the floor, but that meant that there was no waiting. So like William Shatner was their kind of headliner. And ordinarily he would have had a massive line and people would have been waiting for hours to get in to hear, especially because he just came back from space and all of that.
He went to space?
What? Yeah, with Spock. What?
Oh, yeah,
you
right.
Know about that? But and so I personally I wouldn't have waited in line to see him. Like it wouldn't have been a thing. But because it was wide open, there were no lines. It was in a like literally the biggest open space you could imagine. You could just walk up and just like sit down beside the stage and listen. So I ended up going to a few more panels than I think I would have, because
They were just right there.
they were just right there. Like, and at one point I was waiting in line for an autograph for somebody, and the autograph line was right beside the stages where people were talking. So I was standing in line for an autograph listening to the panel. So I was like, you know what, that was kind of cool, because, you know, I didn't really want to sit on the floor, but at least I got to see some people talk that I wouldn't have ordinarily seen. So, I mean, that was
I found the one thing that kind of bugged me was, I know they had like the photo op area. And they had like plexiglass. I never saw any photos from it, so I don't know what they look like, but apparently they had a piece of plexiglass, so you would be on the other side, so you could be maskless with the celebrity, but you can't like touch them or whatever, which is, I mean, that's okay. I feel like sometimes Fan Expo gets lazy with their guest list, because the Frightmare in the Falls and the Comic-Con in Niagara Falls was the next weekend, and they had a way better guest list.
Really good,
and they're supposed to be the lesser of the cons, but their guest list was way better. And like, they take out the box on their guests.
Yeah. And as far as I know, nobody canceled that one. Like, I didn't get any notifications that any guests canceled the next weekend. So I don't know why guests kept canceling. I feel like there was some issue with management or something.
Something was not right.
Yeah, because the very next weekend, everybody was there. Like, nobody canceled. So
like, I'll give them credit for trying it out. I mean, I think it was a bit of a fail generally. It was nice just to be back in that atmosphere again. I'll give them that. And I think, I mean, I don't know the inner workings again behind the scenes, and there's probably a lot of red tape and a lot of things that they were hoping to do, but then suddenly couldn't. And like, I don't know all that. I just know from a perspective of me having gone there for like, I don't know how many years we've gone now.
17.
Around 7. Like, my expectations were a little bit higher for that show. I just felt it was like a little bit like cheapened down. I felt like they cheapened out. Even I bought a lanyard for because they don't give you like, you can get free lanyards, like skinny ones, but they have like the regular Fan Expo lanyards. It wasn't until about 10 minutes later that I realized it said Edmonton on it.
Yes, they told us that, because we got one too, and they said to us, unfortunately, you're going to have to wear this one that says Edmonton Expo, because our Fan Expo Canada ones were lost in shipping and we didn't get them.
I mean, that can happen. I know,
but Fan Expo Canada is like the biggest of the fan expos. Why would they have gotten those first?
That was just that was the first like step, like, you know what I mean? Where I'm like, okay, something's not right here. This doesn't feel right at all.
Yeah. You know, the one other thing that I really missed this year, and it's a stupid thing, they didn't have pizza, and every year
they did. I didn't go in the actual like food court at all.
Yeah, they didn't have pizza, and the smell of pizza to me, plus the carpet and the geeks and whatever, smells like Fan Expo. Like, anytime I go to pizza, I'm like, that smells like Fan Expo. So it's something I look forward to, because it's like, oh, I'm back. And they didn't have pizza, so it didn't smell anything like Fan Expo.
Yeah, there were a few vendors that were definitely missed. Like, I love the t-shirt, like the styling t-shirt thing. Like, it wasn't there. There's just a few things that just weren't there, that it just took me out of the whole situation. Who knows? That's just us complaining. We haven't talked to each other about it, so we had to do it all right now.
I know, this is it. This is the first time we've vented since this whole thing happened.
This is like watching your parents fight, the two of them.
Except your parents are on the same side.
Yeah, that's right.
So one other thing I wanted to mention about our Fan Expo weekend. So I went with my son this year, and the one thing that we did that made it feel a bit more Fan Expo-y to us is in Toronto right now at the Yorkdale Mall, they've got an exhibit called Marvel Station. And it's touring around. I think it's in the States and a few other places. I don't want to give too much away, because you may end up going there, but if you get a chance to visit Marvel Station, and you're a Marvel fan, it is one of the coolest things you'll experience, because it's all like props and set and costumes, like screen used props and
That's
costumes.
cool.
From and it's totally immersive. Like, they have the Avengers music playing, and then all these touch screens and like stuff. It's really, like, we were there for about 2 hours or so.
Wow.
And it's fantastic. Like, it's like, I can't even talk enough about how cool this thing was. If we didn't do that, I think our Fan Expo weekend would have been a bit of a bust, but this felt a little bit like a Fan Expo thing. So But anyway, yeah, so check it out. Marvel Station. I think in Canada it's Marvel Station Canada. But check it out, and you'll see some images and things. And man, it's really worth doing if you're a Marvel fan, for sure.
When I went with my kids to Toronto earlier, that was on at the same time, but I didn't know what it was. And I was like, and I didn't want to go away out to Yorkdale Mall and find out it was a bust, because I did a few things in Toronto that were a bit of a bust when we went. And so I was already like, I don't want to go out like and do another thing that's going to waste my time. So I didn't know, but I wish I would have gone. You did it like an amazing video too, Larry. Does great videos. You should post that on our Facebook page.
Yeah. I'll share it to the Loop and Larry Facebook.
It's really good. It's like it really captures it. Now I'm like, oh, why didn't I go? I didn't just take a chance on this thing.
Well, as far as I know, it's there until January. So at least January. So if you get a chance, it's now November 1st. If you get a chance to hop on the train or whatever and go back down there, you've got till January to see it. But Loop, I think like you would go crazy because
I looked awesome, and I'm like, why didn't we just go? Like I just, for some reason, I didn't get from the advertising the sense of the how good it was. So I wish I would have gone.
The fact that it's in a mall is always like it's in a mall. How good can this thing be?
Yeah.
But it's totally built in. Like they had to construct walls and construct things to build this thing. Like,
that sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's really good. So I would highly recommend if you get a chance to go and check that out, no matter where you want.
Another that consumed me this October is I did my 31 horror films of October this year.
Yeah.
And it was like, so I got through all 31 with some time to spare too, because it's a lot of work to watch 31 films. Like
you have to commit every day of the month.
Pretty much. And so some days I'd watch 2, and then if I missed a day, I tried to stay ahead at least 2 films in case I just couldn't do it one day or whatever. So I watched quite a few. I watched like the entire Conjuring series. I won't go through all of them, but Salem's Lot and Jeepers Creepers classic. Sleepaway Camp was one of them. I watched Witchboard, and I watched Repossessed. Remember that from 1990 with Leslie Nielsen?
Blair?
Yeah. Like a spoof of The Exorcist. If you have a chance to watch it, it's kind of like an airplane style movie, but just not what done well.
No, it's like Linda Blair trying to hang on to her Exorcist like fame because she was a lot older by that point.
Yeah, and she was actually good in it. It was just that the writing wasn't that great. Like it was just there'd be some all right sight gags here and there. But I also 2 years ago I watched all the Halloween movies. Last year I watched all the Friday 13th within the 31, and this year I did all the Nightmare on Elm Street movies within this thing. Nice. I realized that as you watch more of the Nightmare movies, like especially when you watch them very close and back to back, they get goofier and goofier and goofier as it goes, like to the point where it's just so ridiculous. They're not even horror after a while. They're just like Freddy Krueger becomes almost like the Kramer of like you know what I mean? Like what crazy situations he going to be in this week? Like it's just like some of it got pretty goofy. Like it's just more fantasy than it was horror, I guess. Weird when you watch these movies all back to back to back to back. It's like
how many were there? I can't remember how many were there of those.
I think there was 7. Including really? New Nightmare was good. I did enjoy that because it went a bit back to its like more of its scary roots. Then the Freddy versus Jason would have been kind of like the last one in that series.
Right. So, did you watch that one too?
I did watch that. Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Because I watched all the Friday 13th last year, but I feel like it's a little bit more of a Freddy movie, so I watched it with this batch. So, but it's good. But I did watch the new Halloween with that as well. So that was one of the movies I watched. Halloween Kills. I watched that.
Oh, right. Give me a quick. So I haven't seen that yet. Just give me a quick, like, what your impressions of it.
I liked it. It felt like a middle movie. Like, you know what I mean? Because I know it's a trilogy, so I felt like they really set up for the next one. And there was a lot of things like, so I'll just quickly, they ignore everything after the first Halloween movie, and then they go to this one. So the one before this.
Yeah, sorry.
So the 2018 version or whatever, like when they kind of brought it back. So in that they ignored everything after the first Halloween. So none of that happened. Like no Buster Rhymes, none of that ever happened.
Season of the Witch?
Did that? No, that didn't happen either. None of that happened. There was a reference to Season of the Witch in this, so maybe that did.
The new one?
Yeah. There was a funny callback to it.
Awesome.
So, but anyways, at one point somebody says that Michael Myers has terrorized this town for 40 years. But if they went with the timeline that they're doing, he was actually in like an asylum for all those years. So he wasn't terrorizing anybody. He was like, he only killed 3 people or 5 people or whatever in the first movie. And that would have been all that would. Yeah. But it's like, he's been terrorizing this town for 40 years. Like, no, he hasn't. He's been in a prison he's been in an asylum for 40 years. Like, what are you talking about? Like
literally an entire generation grew up without even knowing about him.
Yeah. And they kind of reference that as well, but it's like, I don't know why. It's almost like they forgot sometimes that they'd forgotten all those other movies. Like, it's just, so there's a bit of that going on. And the funny part was Jamie Lee Curtis is like the main star of it. She was literally in bed in a hospital for almost the entire movie.
Really?
So, yes. What? And I'm like, I thought she was the star of this. Like, she's like, she literally was just, I think she got up once and then got back into bed. So it was,
there's no, actually doesn't like do any, well, I mean, I don't spoil it for me because I still want to see it. So wow, weird.
There's some cool stuff in it, but Anthony Michael Hall's in it as well.
So there you go. That's always good.
It has a Breakfast Club feel, you know.
That's awesome.
So there was that.
So, but compared to the Halloween from 2018, is this one like comparable or but not quite as good?
Not quite as good, but still good.
Okay.
Like, it was still good. Like, I enjoyed it. it was a lot. There's some holes in it, like that you go, okay, that's like there's no way. Like, or they just say things that just don't fit into the timeline that they've created for themselves. So, but other than that, it was like entertaining. Like, I was entertained the whole thing, and there's some good kills. You gotta have some good kills.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's why you're going, right? I mean,
Michael Myers style, as only he can do. But it was enjoyable, and the next one should be really good. So it should be. But it did feel a little bit like a filler movie to get to the next movie, like a little bit, but it was still good. So,
well, speaking of enjoyable, how about that Squid Game?
What is this Squid Game I've been hearing about? What is this? I was actually surprised, going back to Fan Expo for 2 seconds. I only saw, I think, 2 Squid Game costumes.
I thought, I was fully expecting like pink jackets and black helmets everywhere.
Yeah.
I saw one guy, we got a picture with one guy dressed as the front man.
Yeah,
who had like 3D printed the frontman mask, which was pretty cool. And then that was all I saw. I'm like, what?
I actually ordered that frontman mask from Amazon. It said it was going to be here in time for Halloween. It still is yet to show. I haven't seen it yet. Yes. It's like, oh man, Amazon ruined my Halloween. I had it all planned out.
By next year, people have forgotten all about it.
I know, that's a problem. Now it's like, what do we do with it now? Unless they do a sequel to it or whatever. Like, I'm not sure what's going to go on. But anyways, I just wanted to mention with Squid Games. I really enjoyed it. There was some stuff I questioned in it about midway through.
Okay.
But
are we spoiling any of it, or?
Well, we can. I mean, it's been out for a while. Like, I found the American people really odd. Like, that whole part was a little bit weird. Yes. And the brother that was sneaking around the building, the cop who had infiltrated it, who for some reason was never discovered through that entire movie, even though they had like mega security and mega like cameras everywhere, but for some reason they didn't notice him.
Well, because he kept changing masks. So
well, there you go.
We're looking for a guy with a circle. That's not him. He's got a triangle.
The PlayStation people, as they like to be called. But anyway, I thought it was like just a really cool concept for a movie, and I'm sure an American version will come out sooner than we expect. But
probably apparently this thing has been in the works for 10 or 15 years.
Oh wow!
That originally the guy who created it wanted to make a movie, like an actual 2-hour-long movie, but it kept getting rejected. Like, nobody would take on or greenlight a movie. So it just sat for a while, and then he just kept pitching it, and then all of a sudden one day Netflix kind of went, all right, we'll give it a shot. But I guess this thing has been around for a long time.
Oh yeah, it looked amazing. Like, I think like style alone, and like just the characters and the looks of everybody, I think it's an A+, like based on that alone. But I enjoyed the whole series. Like, I thought it was great, like right to the end. And I know people have different ideas of what they wanted to see and whatever, but I thought it paid off fine at the end. Like, I didn't think it like didn't pay off or anything. So
I didn't see it coming. Like, I didn't see the ending coming. So I guess some people did. I did not. So I was totally like, what? But so they are talking about season 2. It's like I don't think they've greenlit a season 2 yet, but they are sort of in talks about what it could potentially be about.
Yeah.
And from the sounds of it, it'll be more about the police side of things and all the corruption in the Korean police. So I feel like it will be more about like the brother and sort of why he didn't get assistance from the police when he finally got back to land and was like, come and help me. I feel like it's going to be more like how the police were hiding this event happening, you know.
Yeah.
What I mean? Like,
I heard a slightly different one. I heard that like it's good. It would be what's happening now with the main character trying to go back.
Right.
That cop's probably still alive, I'd assume, because you never saw his body. If you don't see his body, they could still be alive.
No,
But I had heard that the possibility of them going back in time and finding out how the front man had become the front man. So they'd be able to do all the Squid Games again, because it would be him going through that whole process.
Oh, cool.
Making it, but I've heard that and then bouncing to the present and bouncing back again. So
Nice.
because you can't do that show without having like the Squid Games as a part of it again.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
That whole so
it was worth the hype. It totally paid off for me. I'm super excited for season 2, whatever season 2 is going to be.
Yeah, no, it was great. I quite enjoyed it. I'm glad I watched it. It's one of those shows too. And I love shows like this where you have to watch them when everybody else is watching them, because it's going to get spoiled. So you drop every other show you're watching just to watch that and get into it. So I really enjoyed it. Finally, this just broke today. The new trailer for Book of Boba Fett.
Yes. I didn't expect this. I don't know. I had no idea. I
thought you were a Star Wars insider. I thought you knew.
I know. I literally dropped the ball on this one. I don't know what happened, but I did find out only about 40 minutes after it happened. So I feel like that's pretty close.
That's not bad. It's within an hour of it dropping.
Exactly. I felt pretty good. So yes, the Book of Boba Fett comes out December 29th on Disney Plus. First trailer dropped. This trailer blew me away. I got suddenly so pumped again for this thing, and it was literally right off the very top of the trailer. They showed like one of the most obscure Star Wars characters ever, because it's literally seen for, I'd say, probably 5 seconds in the entire run of things in Jabba's palace. The thing is called a Bulmar Monk, and it looks like a big spider. I only know that because I have the action figure of it.
Oh yeah, doesn't it carry like another character's brain or something?
It's an actual monk. There was like this sect of monks, and their part of their thing is when they died, their brains were removed and put into this container attached to a spider creature. So it's a monk. It's a monk's brain. That's why they're called the Bulmar monks. So yeah, it's a living brain inside a tube, instead of like a fishbowl attached to a spider. But to see it full in view walking around just made me so excited, because it's one of those characters I really like, but you never saw. So I was just like, oh my gosh, they're totally like doing playing fan favorites with this series. And I'm just like, I'm so in.
The reason I love Jedi, and it's my second favorite of the Star Wars movies, even better than Empire Strikes Back, it's because of that whole scene, like that whole opening of the movie. Still one of my favorite openings, like first halves of a movie I've ever seen. Like it's like I could watch that whole thing over and over again. Like it's so good. So I'm really looking forward to this. This whole movie.
That's what this feels like. Like it feels like, because I mean, it looks like a bunch of it takes place in Jabba's palace and all of that. I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is gonna feel so like going home again, kind of.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be good. One thing I hope it does, and my hot take on this is that Boba Fett's not that great a character based on the original Star Wars movies. He was redeemed in Mandalorian. We'll see how he does in this, because I felt like this is where he's going to have to shine.
Yep. I completely agree. I was never really a big Boba Fett fan. Like he doesn't, I mean, he's cool enough, but he never did anything. Like
as a kid, I loved him because he was so cool. And then his action figure had the jetpack or the missile and all that stuff. But then when I watched it later on in life, I was like, he doesn't do anything. He just does a lot of this.
Yes, he does.
He nods. He's a good nodder. He can carry on a nod, but
he's very agreeable.
Yeah, he likes to agree to things. Yeah. He's like, he's a yes man of the bounty hunters. Really, like, it's like,
it's true. Yeah, so I was there, but you're right. When like the older version of Boba Fett appeared in Mandalorian, I was totally 100% mega fan. I love that version of him. I just think he's so cool now.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be awesome. Like I'm really super excited about this.
Yeah,
about this movie.
I wish it wasn't another 2 months away, but
yeah,
I guess
it'll be here before you know it. Look how fast this year is gone. You think that's going to be here in 2 seconds?
Yeah, that's true.
Like it's
by the time we do episode 2 of season 4, well, it'll have started.
It'll be already a year done by the time we do the second season will be coming out by the time we do the next episode of the season. We're on top of things, so
yeah, good for us.
That's what we do. I just want to mention one more thing before we. I don't know why this is like gone off my radar, but I did finally see it. I finished American Horror Story, the double feature season. Have you watched it at all?
No, and I think I don't have FX. Like, I think for whatever reason I don't have, so I've literally not seen any of it. I don't know anything.
I just literally found it not that long ago. It was on Disney Plus very briefly.
Was it?
Yeah, and then it was gone, and now it's on FX again.
Okay.
But Disney Plus has the
it's got the first 3 seasons.
Yeah, and they also have the other series that came out at the same time, which is the stories.
The stories, yeah,
which is like individual. Yeah, and I've watched the first 3 of that, and it's pretty good. Like,
yeah,
but this one's like the first 6 episodes is like a vampire base.
Okay.
And it's excellent. And the last 4 is kind of an Area 51. Like, it's all in black and white, but it does jump to the future as well, to the present. So it kind of goes back and forth from black and white to color, but it's really good. Like, based around a lot of the presidents and of that time period and things like that.
Cool. Is it finished? Like
that series is finished. It's called double feature. So that's the newest season. And then I have only watched like the first 3 episodes of American Horror Stories, but the only reason I'm saying anything is because it fell off the radar. And if anyone hasn't seen it or didn't know where it was, or if it was still coming out, there's 2 different series. One's your regular series and one's this like anthology. So it is back out, it's done, and you can actually binge the whole thing.
And wasn't Macaulay Culkin in this one?
Yeah, he was in the first 6 episodes of the double. Yeah, he was great.
Really?
He was really good. He was really good.
All right.
So don't count out Macaulay. Never count out the Macaulay. He's like,
count out the Macaulay.
He was good. And a lot of your regulars are in it, like the usual suspects bump in here and there. So, but I recommend it. I thought it because one of the seasons, the last ones, I can't remember which one, I didn't really like that much. This one I really enjoyed. So
okay. Well, I will search it out again because I could not find it and then I forgot about it.
Yeah, so there you go. And this is just a gentle reminder from Loop and Larry to watch this.
Yeah, and sometimes Larry needs a gentle reminder too. So it's so good.
There's way too many shows. It's hard to watch all these things. But anyway, all right.
Speaking of which, real quick, don't forget the Chucky series has started.
How is that?
Well, I've only watched the first episode, and it's on TV. So.
Okay, perfect. All right, I'll make sure on that high recommendation. I'll make sure I grab that and watch it.
Yeah. The only thing I'm going to say about it, and I don't want to give anything away, Chucky has one kill in the first episode that is something you have never ever seen Chucky do before.
All right.
And you'd be like, I did not know he could do that.
All right, it kind of scares me, but
it was a little it was different.
All right.
But anyway, there you go.
All right. So one thing that is going to stay consistent is the pop capacitor. You want to go do that right now?
Let's go.
We are back, pop capacitor, and we're going to be looking today at the movie Dune. A little bit about the new one, but mostly focusing on the 1984 David Lynch version, directed by Lynch, starring Kyle MacLachlan, Virginia Madsen, Patrick Stewart, which was a surprise, Sting, and a few other classic actors in that. It was based on the book Dune, which came out in 1965, and I think it was the first real attempt at. It was the first movie for sure of Dune. I think there was some attempts prior to it but this was the first time it had been made into a motion picture. Here's my one-line plot of this movie, just so we have this in here. A bunch of houses, at one point known as the Chosen One, fight for the desert spice planet, which is frightening worms buried under the sand, as much as this movie is buried with politics that no one understands. So there you go. It's like
that is exactly
that pretty much sums it up.
100%.
A couple quick facts on this. Budget 40 million, and it made about 30 million. Yeah, that would be called like a bomb. Generally, Lynch turned down Return of the Jedi to do this.
Well, that was probably a good call, because I don't know how he would have done with a Star Wars movie.
Yeah, and he said he didn't get it, and he had no interest in Star Wars at all, or that universe. Apparently he read this book, they offered it to him, he liked it, and so he did it. But on the flip side, this is also a movie he rarely will talk about, because it's an embarrassment to him, and he considers it's one of his few failures as a movie is Dune. Apparently what happened was the cut he wanted to do wasn't the cut the studio wanted to do. It was a classic director versus studio situation. So he kind of with it, and walked away. That was it.
Now it makes me want to do a hashtag Lynch's Dune. I want to see the Lynch cut.
Yeah, I know. I think there's some scenes, or someone's made some sort of cut that's I think on YouTube that's like longer, with some scenes that were like cut from the movie. But this is one of my favorite facts of this movie. Patrick Stewart didn't know who Sting was. He'd never heard of Sting. And he asked him what if he's a solo artist. And Sting said, "No, I'm in the band The Police." And Patrick Stewart honestly thought that he meant he was a policeman who was in a police band. Like you know what I mean? Like a band of police would put together for charity. That's what he thought. Really? Yeah.
That's not very wise.
No,
that's not very pop culture-y from Patrick Stewart.
Yeah, Patrick Stewart is not on. I feel like Patrick Stewart was like a major theater actor. You know what I mean? That's sort of and the production and crew. This was like a major movie with 1,700 production crew. It was it required 80 sets built on 16 sound stages. And it was more than 6 years in the making.
Whoa.
That's crazy.
Well, so now I can understand why Lynch would have disavowed this movie if the studio cut out key parts of it. I mean, if he spent that much time and effort to make this thing, I think the studio would have been like, no, just do it. Make it 3 hours long, make it 4 hours long.
Yep, just Dune it. That's what they said.
Dune it.
It's our new slogan. Let's Dune it. Let's not make that a saying, by the way.
No, I'm never going to say that again.
I will never once ever utter those words.
Nope.
So what we'll do is
we'll go.
Dune
it. Sorry.
I know it's hard not to say it. What we'll do is what we do with Pop Capacitors, go through the movie. We'll do hits and misses to kind of work our way through, and the plot sort of fills itself in as we go.
Yes.
Assuming you probably watched this movie at some point or have seen it. So, so I'll get Larry. You can start with any hits or misses that you have.
Okay. Well, the first thing I just want to say before we get into hits and misses, this is the kind of movie I feel like you had to grow up with.
Yes.
I don't think you could jump into the movie now and enjoy it, because I just don't. I mean, we've each seen it probably at least a dozen times. It's one of my favorite movies. I actually really like it. But I've seen it a lot of times, and I rewatched it just before watching the new movie, and I'm still picking up pieces of the story that I haven't gotten before.
Yeah, I watched it just before it too, literally the night before I watched it, before I went and saw it.
Yeah. So anyway, I just want to put that out there, that it's not the kind of movie that you could just jump in and be like, hey, I'm going to watch this fun movie, because I think you need to watch it multiple times. Anyway.
The other thing I wanted to mention as well is that this movie's not liked by a lot of people. It did bomb. It's people have described it as messy. It's like people Dune purists don't like it. So I mean, it's not without its flaws, but I also think there's a lot in it that I think is good. Having seen both together, I think there's some stuff I will say, this is a hot take, I will say I like this better than the new Dune.
Wow.
So okay, I still like it better. And now, mind you, I haven't seen the new Dune in its entirety, obviously, because if they're gonna, they just announced a part 2. But that's going to be going ahead. But I still like this one better. But maybe it's because I grew up with it. I don't know.
Well, I think there is some nostalgia
Yeah.
about it. That's what I meant. Like it is the kind of movie, if you grew up with it, it's pretty nostalgic, and it's so it's got that going for it. But okay, so let's just jump right in here. So my first hit for this movie is based on what you were talking about with the number of crew. The set design for this movie is so spectacular. Like
God, yeah.
I can't think of another movie in the 80s or 90s or 2000s that was this intricate. Like the throne rooms and the interior sets are just incredible. Like they're massive, they're so big, and they're so intricate. Like it just makes it feel so immersive and so real. Like I was just, that's part of what I love about that movie, is like how incredible it looks. Like just visually, I think it's just stunning.
The production value definitely is like, it's weird because like Lynch went from doing like the Elephant Man. I think the Elephant Man is the reason like he got this movie, and which is like a low key movie. And then he's going to the special effects like masterpiece. Like it is a cool looking movie. Like I know some of the special effects may seem cheesy now by our standards, but some of them look really good. It's all practical special effects too. Yes. It looks amazing. Like the worm scenes, like everything looks good.
Yeah. Like, and considering it's 1984, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Considering it's 1984, just what they had to work with then and the technology that they had, it still blows me away. Like I still watch it. I actually just recently purchased a 4K version of it on Blu-ray because I really wanted to see like the high definition. I watched them like, wow, this is still, it's incredible.
Yeah, it does look really good. Yeah. One of the I'll do a miss just because you just did a
right.
One is this is a hit and a miss. So the opening of the movie, which is Virginia Madison's face, and she does a lot of exposition, kind of sets up the movie. The whole scene is weird because it's her face in front of like space.
Yeah.
But then they keep fading her out and fading her in for no reason. Like when you fade her out, you think you'd see something, but all you see is the space you can already see behind her, like the stars.
Yeah.
Like I don't understand why he did that. Like it was kind of odd.
So when I rewatched it this time, the only thing I could come up with, because I always think that, I'm like, why is she fading out? Is because she's talking about how spice helps you fold space and travel through space without moving. Maybe that's what he was trying to do, make it look like she was like leaving space and then coming back. Do you know what I mean? Like moving through. Maybe that's what. Other than that,
it was odd. It was just an odd choice. Now the other thing I thought of, because if you're watching this on YouTube, you would have seen her opener, which we kind of spoofed that. Is that maybe she only could do so many lines at a time, and then they'd use that to do a cut and then kind of restart again. Like I'm not sure what the reason. It's just very odd. It's just a very odd choice of that. Now the hit of that is that I think because it is kind of funny. She does a lot of exposition, tells like basically sets up the whole story. But because of that, I understood it a lot better going in. She really breaks down like the houses and who's who and kind of right off the top. Like it's a little over the top in how it's done, but I like going into it. Dune is not an easy world. I'll put this out there too. I've tried to read Dune a few times and it is not an easy book. I'm going to try it again next year. I'm going to try to read it again. It's confusing. Like it is just confusion. So this helped a lot. The setup of this really helped a lot, I thought.
And I just want to say I won't be reading the book because, as we've determined, I don't read.
Okay, you'll get the picture book. That'll happen.
I will buy the book and then I'll put it on the shelf and just leave it there.
You'll own it, but not read it. Okay,
not read it. No,
but I just thought that really helped, and I felt like. I'll talk about this when we talk about the new one. I think I needed something like that in the new one, but it was very helpful to kind of spell it out a little bit for us. So
yes, I completely agree. Okay, so I'll throw in a little miss here too.
Okay, I like a good miss.
And I think this is what you were mentioning before too, the studio's involvement. There was obvious, like I didn't know the story, like I said, I haven't read the books, so I don't know all of the details, but it's really clear in this version how much was cut out, because I'd say the first it's a 2 hours and 15 minutes, this movie. I'd say about the first hour the pacing is good, everything seems to be in place, the storytelling, but as soon as they sort of land on Arrakis, and then he starts like realizing things, it just shoots through like all kinds of information, and like, all of a sudden there's a love affair, and like you're like, what? Where did he even meet? Like, how did this happen? Like, it looked like in the last hour they cut out so much of the story to make sure to include. You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of Ralph Bakshi's version of Lord of the Rings, the animated.
Yes.
100%.
100%.
Where they took all 3 Lord of the Rings books and made it into one like hour and a half long movie, and like 90% of the story is gone. I feel like that's what happened with this. I feel like there's a ton of information that they just had to cut out.
The storytelling was very rushed in that last half.
It was, but the first half wasn't. So like the first half, you're like, okay, this is awesome, and then all of a sudden it just something happened.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a little unfortunate.
I thought there was a lot of really cool ideas in this, like visual ideas.
Yes.
I mean, we got to consider the time period it's in and the type of special effects they can do, and what was probably kind of, I don't want to say trending, but what was probably hot at the time for special effects. The suits that they use when they fight and it becomes all cubey around them.
Yes.
As dumb as it looks now to us, that's very Tronish to me.
It is. Yeah.
I thought that was very cool. Like I thought the stuff, little things like that I thought were cool. I love that at the beginning, I don't know what that was. It's like a giant like fish thing or whatever, that great big creature. It was
one of the guild, what are they called? He's one of those things that can fold space. I don't know what he's called.
Yeah, I don't know either. Yeah. But like that looks so cool, and like
really cool.
There was a lot of cool like little ideas in it that, I mean, some of them probably spawned from the book, but the costuming and the different looks of some of the people, which I would say some of it's on Lynch and his designers, because in the new movie, some of them don't look the same as, otherwise they'd look exactly the same as they are in this. So obviously that was sort of his ideas that, or our designers' ideas that kind of got in there. But I just thought there was a lot of neat little things in it that I thought were very, very cool.
Yeah.
One of the things I noticed too, I'll put this out here, is that because I haven't read the book, I don't know what is from the book and what isn't from the book. So like what they, unless you've read it, it's like watching it. I finally read the book and realized, oh, they left this out and put this in and did this and this. So I can't do that with Dune because I don't know, because there's some dumb things I thought were kind of misses, but then I realized they were in both movies. Yes. And so and then I'm like, okay, so that's part of the book. That's from the book. So
now, I was thinking this exact same thing when I watched the new movie. There are literally lines right out of, must have been the book, but in my world, they're right out of the original movie, like literally word for word. Some of the script from the original movie is in the new movie, so that must be stuff right from the book, obviously. But I thought the same thing. And it's funny that you bring this up, because one of my hits is I actually wrote down visualizing the mythology. Like the way they visualized it, like it's so well done. One of my favorite scenes in the 1984 version, and it's not even anything special, but there's a device called what's it called, a hunter seeker or a hunter. It's is
that the flying needle?
Yeah, it's like a needle that seeks out its target, and it turns, and if you move, it will come and kill you. But anyway, the way it's like, the way they shot it, it really looks like this thing's flying through the air and turning and moving. It's just so slick. In the 1984 version, I always thought that was really cool. Like, I mean, I'm sure it's just wires and whatever, but it's really done with shadows. Like they hide it in shadows, so you can't tell that it's on wire. It's just like a really slick special effect, I think.
Yeah, and the special effects were top notch in that. I thought they all looked really good especially for the time period. This is a really like small miss, but the eyebrows on that one guy, it were bothering me. Yeah, I was like, they're like,
yes.
I'm glad the eyebrow guy died very quickly in the movie.
Yeah. So it's funny that you say that, because I have a miss too.
Oh God. And
my miss is similar. It's Sting's body.
I know. What is with his body in this?
I don't know, but like at one point he comes out of like the shower or something.
It's a steam bath.
And he's only wearing like a Speedo, and he's like all wet, but he's like so ripped, and he's just like, but then he just stands like like
just presenting himself like a peacock.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it just seems so.
It was a very uncomfortable scene. That's put that.
Yeah, it just felt so out of place. Like everything else in the Harkonnen world at the time was kind of grungy and dirty. And I guess that was the point, is that this guy was not like that. Like he was very, about fashion or about whatever. I don't know what it was, but it just always to me felt really out of place a little bit. So
was Sting wrapped around your finger at that
little
point?
bit? Yeah. Everything, every little thing he does is magic.
That is true. That is true. It's so dumb. I read in that scene that he actually wanted to be naked in that scene.
Really?
Like, I think that was an original idea, and then they decided no, he had to be covered up. Like, they just because there was someone else that was supposed to do a nude scene in it as well that didn't end up doing it, but he wanted to walk out of that like naked. Well, they just showed his butt or whatever, but then they decided not to. So
it just stands out so much.
It's disturbing. It's a very disturbing scene. The one thing about this movie is I don't know if this is a hit or a miss, but it's very dirty. Like if I don't know if you know, like there's just something like kind of dirty about this movie. Like it's just like that the main villain, I can't remember what his name is, but he's like has all like the pimples all over his face.
Yeah, it's Baron Harkonnen.
Yeah, and they're like popping them, and like it's just like there's just a lot of like kind of icky things in it.
Yes. So the Baron is actually one of my hits.
Yeah, I like the Baron a lot. I think
he's the pimples and stuff is that in that version, I'm assuming it's from the book, although they didn't do it in the new version. He collects diseases, so that's why he's all pussy. And in one scene you can actually see a doctor like inserting a needle in his face and inserting stuff, because that's part of his thing, is he collects diseases. And so he's got the diseases all over his face, and I just think that added a lot to his character. It just, he was evil and disturbing, but then to do that on top of it, I was just like, this guy is just vile. Like, this is one of the most vile villains in cinema history, I think. But I really like that character. I think he's well done.
Yeah. One of my hits in this movie too is because it's a David Lynch movie. There's a lot of like David Lynchian kind of things and kind of editing in it that I'll see later on after this, like in other movies, like a lot of quick like dream sequences and things are like that's his jam. But there's a lot of like Lynch regulars in this movie. If you're a David Lynch fan, like a lot of guys that end up being in Twin Peaks or just in other future movies that are in this movie, which I love. Like Jack Nance is in almost all his movies or shows somewhere. Like, so I as a Lynch fan, I love that. Like, I'm like, oh, there's so-and-so, he's in this movie. And like, it's so cool. Yeah,
I agree. I've got one more hit, and you talked briefly about it already. But it's the voiceovers. The thoughts. So all the way through the movie, you hear people talk, and then they stop talking and you hear what they're thinking. And I always really liked that. I always thought that was like, there's a scene where Paul Atreides is being tested by putting his hand in a box, and his mother says, you have to do this, and she stops talking, then she says, I'm about to lose my son today. Like, it was a real thought. Like, that's what she would have actually been thinking. And it wouldn't have made any sense for her to say it out loud. I thought that the thoughts carried the story really well, because it just gave you a little bit more insight into what the characters were feeling, like, as opposed to just having conversation. So I actually thought that was a really neat idea, and I thought, I appreciated that part, and every time I watch it, I like it a bit more.
It's pretty cool. So I've got two more misses and a hit, and I'll just whip through them here. There's a point where Kyle MacLachlan is yelling in a close-up, so it's like the camera's panning in on him. I think it had something to do with the water of life. I'm not sure if that's the scene, but anyways, you can see his fillings in the back of his mouth, and it just took me out of the movie for whatever reason. I'm like, I could totally see his fillings. Apparently they do fillings now there. It's like,
really?
I've
never seen that.
I just happen to know you can see them in the very back. There's some sort of fillings. It's just a little like detail that I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. This $1 million.
maybe it's just sand. Maybe he's been like ingesting sand and he got
There's
it
just some
caught in his
spice.
teeth.
He got some spice caught back there.
Spice,
It's like,
yeah.
well, another miss I had was the TV like credits at the end.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
there's like where they'd show the person and then they'd have like their credit up on the side.
Yeah, that
And
was
some of them look like they're taken out of the movie, like there's actually a scene, and other ones are just, it's just them like staring at it's just very odd, like
inconsistent. Yeah,
it's
yeah,
just a very,
that.
I don't know, it's just very TV like it's just a sort of a TV like sort of credits. This is, I think, the biggest hit of the movie. An image of Patrick Stewart holding a pug, I think, is probably the best part of this entire movie.
Yes.
Where did this dog come from? Like,
I don't know.
There's a point where so there's this pug in the movie, if you've never seen it, and it's like every once in a while it's just in scenes. It's like the family dog or something. And there's no other animals out. There's a cat at one point they're trying to like milk or something, but but this dog's in it. And there's a scene where they're all in this giant battle, and Patrick Stewart's holding the dog under his arm and shooting a laser gun.
It doesn't even make any sense.
I know. And I'm like, why is he carrying the pug? Like, it's like one of those things where you haven't seen it for the whole movie. Like, there's probably a good hour you hadn't seen it, and all of a sudden he's holding it like in this one scene. I do not understand this. So I looked it up, and apparently that's not in the book. There's no pug in the book or any dog whatsoever. But Lynch, for whatever reason, decided he needed to put this dog in the movie. I don't know why exactly. I still got to figure that out.
Maybe it was his own dog. Maybe it was his own dog. He wanted to give it a cameo or something.
I don't know, but apparently it's a thing. Like this pug. Like I noticed it right away, so I looked it up, and people are like talking about the pug in the movie. Like it's just like, why is this pug in this movie?
Yeah, it's the royal pug.
The royal pug's in there. That scene is hilarious with him holding. I'm surprised that's not a meme of some sort, because
it should be.
It's the most ridiculous photo I've ever seen. Like,
yes.
It's just like, why is he holding a pug? And then you never see it again after that.
Nope.
I don't know where it is. It's
well, he saved it. It's in the kennel.
It's just saving pugs is what he does. So we'll talk about whether we think this holds up in a second, but we've both seen the new Dune. So we'll talk about a little bit about like just some of the differences, what we liked and like didn't like in comparison to the 1984 version. So
so Denis Villeneuve did Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2. Like he's got this sci-fi thing down. Like he's great. As soon as he was announced as the director, I was like, this is awesome. I was so stoked and ready to go, because he does really well with the sci-fi stuff. So and also apparently he read the book when he was 12.
Oh wow.
So I mean, it's difficult for us old guys, but for those, I think
I've tried that book like at least twice, but that was like years and years ago, and then so I'm gonna try it again.
Well, you should have tried it when you were 12, because
apparently
so he read it when he was 12, and apparently he started visualizing this whole world then, like when he was 12 years old. So he's like, this has been his like passion project for most of his life, which is why I feel like I don't know if it's going to be a trilogy or just 2 parts, or I'm not sure how they're going to do it, but you can see why he's spending so much time with this one, because it's been part of his life literally for his whole life almost. I heard it's supposed to be a 2-parter, like originally, and they just didn't know if they had the second part greenlit yet. And then when this came out, I think it's done pretty well. I think so far, it was greenlit, just not like this last week or something. It was greenlit. So I certainly hope so, because the first part ended on a full-on cliffhanger. Like, I mean, not a cliffhanger, but just it didn't have an ending. Like, it was definitely set up for. So the other thing that I wanted to mention, because having seen the first one obviously as many times as we have, if you have not seen the first movie, the 84 version, the David Lynch movie, don't watch it before you see the new version, because it is a part 1, and the David Lynch one is the whole story. So if you haven't watched the David Lynch movie, wait until afterwards, because it'll give away how this thing ends. So that was one of the it was almost a miss. It almost became a miss for me that I had seen the 84 version before this one, because where this one ends, and I don't want to spoil anything because it's only been out for a week or so, where this one ends is roughly the middle of the David Lynch movie. And So I was like, oh my gosh, we still got like, I didn't realize there was going to be a part 2. I was like, this is going to be like another 3 hours. Like this is like, holy cow, this is really slow. And then it ended and I was like, oh, okay. That makes sense.
I knew it was only a part 1 going into it. And I was like,
yeah.
where are they going to end this? Like, I wasn't really 100% sure, but I think where they ended it was fine. Like,
oh, totally. Yeah. It makes absolute sense to cut it where they did like that. I just wasn't expecting it. So I was like, when is this movie going to end? Because it's got a lot to go. And apparently they have a whole second movie to go because there's a lot going on there. But so do you want to start with a hit, or you want to start, where do you want to go with this one?
I've got a few hits and misses, not too many. I don't want to give away too much of the movie, but I've got some. I'll start with a hit off the top. I just thought this was like a stunning, again, like a beautiful looking movie.
Yes.
The desert tends to look good in movies for whatever reason. It's it looked great. Like it was a fantastic looking movie from start to finish. It
really was. I totally agree. So I actually saw the movie twice because I really wanted to see the IMAX version because it was shot. A lot of it was shot in IMAX, but I wasn't able to get seats when I wanted to see it. So I thought, okay, well, if I can't see it in IMAX, I'll go see it in 3D because there was a 3D version playing.
Oh, wow.
Thought, okay, that'd be cool. Not worth it.
Okay.
No, the 3D, there's nothing. I mean, it adds some depth to it, but there's no reason for the 3D. Like, I don't know why they did that, other than they can charge more for tickets, I guess. So, and the other thing is, this movie is can be a little bit dark, light related, and when you put 3D glasses on, it darkens the screen a little bit more. So I found it the first time I watched it, I was like, wow, this movie is kind of dark, like I can't really see a lot here, this, and it was because I had these glasses on. So it wasn't, for me, it wasn't quite as good the first time. The second time I actually got tickets to IMAX, and woo,
oh yeah,
it's a good IMAX movie. Like the colors are crazy. Just like you were saying, like the dunes actually look like the desert looks incredible in IMAX. Like they definitely shot in IMAX. Like it's
okay. I'd almost like to see it in IMAX now.
You should try if you can, because it made it such a difference. Like it's brighter and more vibrant and more colorful and bigger, obviously, but if you get a chance to see it on an IMAX screen, you should. That was good.
Yeah. Well, I've got a miss.
Okay.
Well, you do one because I did a hit.
Oh,
so
okay. So it was a hit for me in the 84 version. The miss for me in this one is that there was no voiceover.
Yes.
Like I was anticipating that they'd have their thoughts like they would in the 84 version. I thought that was part of the story, that we hear their thoughts, and they didn't do that in this one. And I kind of felt like we were missing some of the character because we weren't hearing what they thought. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, they developed the characters really well, so it's not like we didn't know who they were. But I really liked that voiceover, and it just added a lot for me. And so when it wasn't in this version, I was kind of like, oh, okay, they chose not to do that. But anyway, if they had added the voiceover in this version, I think it would have just upped it slightly for me a little bit.
Yeah. One of my hits in this was, and we've touched on it, is that it's only the first half of the novel. So with that, a lot more time they could spend on the plot and the smaller pieces that were probably left out of the other version. And a lot more character and development. Now it's funny because there's characters in this like Jason Momoa, who, of course, who Jason Momoa is. So his character is very memorable. That same character was in the Lynch version, and I didn't even know it. Like he's such a non-character in that version. But in this version, he's like a main character, kind of like, it does a lot in it. And I'm like, where's this character in the other one? And like Lynch must have melded him with another character, but no, he's in it. He's in it. He's just so unmemorable in the other movie. Like
he's like in Star Wars, he's like Biggs.
Yeah, he is. He's just like, it's just a nothing character. So I like that.
There's a lot more to it that they either the studio cut out or Lynch cut out of that, because he has a big role.
Yeah, I like the fact that they could like develop the characters a little bit more and care a little bit more about them. And I thought that was just a cooler, like the fact that they could spend more time on it. So
and also the fact that his name is Duncan Idaho. is good. Okay, so while we're talking about Jason Momoa, I have to throw in a miss here. Jason Momoa's beard.
Oh.
I don't know if you noticed this or not, but when you first see Jason Momoa, he looks like Jason Momoa. He's got the full
and then it disappears or something.
And then like midway through, it's been trimmed, so now it's just like a small beard. And then the last third of the movie, it's completely shaved off.
I noticed that too, but I was like, oh, maybe he's just trying to fit in with the other people or something. But like,
no, because other like the Fremen who he was working with, they had beards. Like there were ones with beards. I have no idea why he went from full beard to partial beard to no beard throughout the courses. Like, I just don't know why they did that.
I wonder if there was like maybe some reshoots and he is already in the middle of doing another movie or something. But then can't they just paste a beard on him? Like,
well, yeah, I mean, I feel like Jason Momoa is also the kind of guy who could grow a full-length beard in like a week.
Yeah, just overnight. Like,
yeah, I feel like, yeah, it just somehow it took me out of the movie slightly. First of all, because I don't think I've ever seen Jason Momoa without that big long beard. So
yeah, I know. I didn't recognize him. Like, and but I could tell like from here up, like his eyes, like I could tell. Okay, that's.
But it was a weird thing, and they don't address it. They never say anything. It just the beard disappears. I don't know why.
Yeah, that was kind of weird.
Yeah, that was strange.
One of my misses in this was I think as beautiful as this movie looks, and I felt there was a lot of style in this movie and not enough attention put to the pacing of the movie. I thought the pacing was very slow. And like, and I realized that probably the novels might be as well, but it's like they need to pick up the pacing slightly, because I found it was just sort of dragged for a while, and I'm like, a lot of them walking or doing like different things, and I'm like, let's lynch this up a little bit. Let's get her moving.
Come on, let's Dune it.
Dune it. We're gonna Dune this.
Let's Dune it. It kind of reminded me of some of the scenes in Lord of the Rings, when they're just like walking endlessly across the
with like a beautiful music score in the background.
Yes. Yeah, it's kind of like that a little bit.
Get her Dune.
Get her Dune. Get her Dune. Okay, so I've got another hit.
Okay.
Which surprisingly was also a hit for me in the 84 version.
Okay.
And that was the Baron. I really liked how they changed the Baron in this one, because he was like, he didn't collect the diseases the same way the other one did. But to me, he was so big. Like, he was like just a massive like blob. Like, he literally was like a blob. And he could still float like the one in David Lynch, but when he floated, his like robes like stayed on the ground, so it looked like he was just like growing. And it was so menacing. Like, he just and then the other thing was, I'm quite confident that he based that off of Marlon Brando's portrayal of Colonel Kurtz in
I think so, for sure he did,
when he was like holding, like wiping his head, and it was totally Colonel Kurtz from Apocalypse Now. Like, it was almost like shot for shot, some of that, and it was so like, he had no humanity at all, this version of the Baron, and I just thought that was awesome. I was like, that is a bad guy.
At first I didn't like him at all. I was like, because I like the other Baron so much.
Yes.
And I'm like, this is like lame as all hell. As it went on, I liked him. He's just a different like kind of vision of the same character. I still think the other one, I like the other one in that it's more memorable to me. Yeah. Because he was just so slimy, but he's kind of almost like he's like the old Baron's like the Roger Moore of Dune, and this other guy's like the what's his face, the newer Bond, Daniel Craig of Dune.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, it's just like there's just a difference, right? There's a little bit of a comicness to the first one. So there was one other thing I found. This is my last miss of this. There was no real like development in this one of the new one of like the admiral or whatever his name is, like the one that oversees everything, which the emperor. The emperor. He's not developed in this at all or seen.
He's not in it.
Whereas in the other one, that's a major thing, is that he's the one that basically says, go do this. Like, he's in on it as well.
so I think like they talked about him, like they talked about it like with the Imperial Order was to remove the Harkonnens from the whatever, blah blah blah. So, but he's literally not in the movie. You don't see him, and I feel like that they did that on purpose because they're saving him up for because
part 2.
obviously, yeah, obviously he's like an evil guy. Like he set up the like House Atreides to be slaughtered. By doing what he's doing, and he's obviously like an ally of the Harkonnens, and so he's a bad dude. So I feel like they're saving him up for part 2, and he's going to be the big bad. Like, whoa, this guy's nasty. That's what I think that they're doing, because yeah, he wasn't in it at all.
And I feel like there was a 4th house in it as well, like in the other version, but I just don't remember what they were. Because there was a house that was there on the planet to begin with that moved out, wasn't there? And then they moved in.
In the original one?
Yeah, I can't remember. There was I feel like there was a 4th house. Like, who was that giant like fish guy? Like, the fish guy.
He was a travel, like he was one of the guild, like the space guild, or
he wasn't his own house.
He was one of the guys that breathes in the dust of the spice and can bend time and travel through space. So he was his own guild thing. And then there's the witches. I can't remember what they're called.
Oh yeah, the guild of witches as well.
Yeah, I can't. So there's that they didn't really talk too much about that in the new one. Maybe that's what you're thinking of is those.
Yeah, I thought there was just another like sort of house in there as well, but maybe not. There's a lot of houses going on.
A lot of houses.
It's very confusing. It's a confusing story. Like I think you get a lot more out of the book probably of that. It's very political. Yes. It's some of that drags the movie down, and that's not the fault of the movies. It's just the fault of just what it is, the source material.
I only have one more miss.
Okay.
And that was because we grew up with the 84 version.
Yep.
The bad guys are known as the Harkonnens.
Yeah.
In the new movie, they refer to them as the Harkonnens.
Yeah, that's right. They did call them something different.
They were called the Harkonnens, and I'm like, what is a Harkonnen? That's not how you pronounce it. Harkonnen. But so literally from 1984 until last week, I only knew them as House Harkonnen. And that's when you look at it written out, it's pronounced Harkonnen. In this movie, they're the Harkonnens. And I'm like, that's the wrong emphasis. You're putting the emphasis on the wrong part of the word. And it kind of bugged me only because I'm so used to hearing it as House Harkonnen. And so I don't know.
I'd be curious to know if the director, I'm avoiding his name because I can't pronounce, like Dennis. Denis
Villeneuve.
Yeah,
Denis.
Whatever. DV as I like to call him. I wonder if he's watched the Lynch version. I'm curious to know because Batista in this movie looks an awful lot like those guys at the very beginning that come in with the fish guy. Like I just call him the fish guy. I don't know what he is, but
I don't know.
But they look like him. Like remember they were bald with like the kind of like the thing going on. So I wondered if there was some things from that movie that he kind of like took to this movie, but
I feel like he did. I mean, he's about our age. So when he read the book when he was 12, that would have been right before the actual movie came out. So my guess is
so he probably would have watched it then for sure.
He probably watched it like billions of times. I'm guessing, because that's the only thing that, like, if he loved the book when he was 12, he would have watched the movie when it came out, and probably a bunch of times. So yeah, that's why I don't know, like, because there are lines and things directly from that are exactly the same in both movies. That's what makes me wonder whether they're from the movie or from the book. I don't know.
It's probably from the book. And I'll just say that I thought Kyle MacLachlan and Timothée Chalamet both did great jobs as Paul. Like, and they're both different in like a little bit different ways, obviously. But I thought they were both great. Like, Tim Shaw was awesome. I love Tim Shaw. Yeah, he's
and Kai McGlaw.
Kai McGlaw. He's good, but no, I thought they were both great, and it was. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed both Dunes. I thought it was good. So I mean, to sum up the original 84 Dune, I just thought it stands up. As much as people don't like it, maybe there's a bit of a cheese factor to it. I'm not really sure the reasonings, but I enjoyed it a lot. Like, I still thought it was good. I mean, it's not without its flaws for sure, but I just enjoyed that movie. Like,
yeah, I totally agree. It still holds up for me, but I honestly think that we love it so much because of the nostalgia. I feel like anybody who just jumps in and never seen it before and watches it now will be like, ugh, like this is like there's some.
But
cool
you
things,
can't.
but
You have to look at this movie for
what
the
it was.
ideas and
Yeah.
the and the vision in it. Like there's so many cool ideas and so many cool looking characters and just different the stuff we had never seen before on screen. In my opinion, like
Oh,
at
100%.
that time, it was just so weird that I think like you've got to look at it from that perspective and say like this is a bit groundbreaking for its time, and it was maybe ahead of its time, and that's why no one got it. And I watch it now and I actually enjoy it now more than I did back then. Like
I agree. I think you're right. I think it was totally ahead of its time. Like I don't think like some of the stuff that they do in that movie, I don't think any other movie did that.
Yeah.
Like even afterwards, like I just don't know. Like it really for 1984, it was pretty spectacular. Like and those things still hold up. Totally do.
Unfortunately, the story and it, it's just so confusing, and he packed a lot into 2.5 hours. I just don't think it resonated with people because it was kind of weird and it was very heavy story wise. Like, and it was just I don't think people got it. And then maybe they went in expecting like a Star Wars and it wasn't that.
Yes.
So
well, and part of the problem is that there are a lot of non-English words, like the Kwisatz Haderach, and there's a lot of words that like you've never heard before, so it makes it even more confusing because there's all these different houses and different planets and all of these like names for things, and so it was a second language, like another language. That, so that made it confusing too. So it is the kind of movie, I think both of them are the kind of movie that you have to watch more than once to really get everything that's in there. Like the whole story and everything. Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, try reading the book, because I remember in the book there's a whole glossary at the back of like these words. I had to keep like flipping back and forth the whole time. So it's just it's heavy source material as far as like just it's supposed to be one of the greatest science fiction series of all time. And it's a little tough to read, but it's that's gonna be my goal for next year.
All right,
2022. I'm gonna read Dune.
My goal is to order it and put it on the shelf.
Perfect.
Yeah, we got our goals. We're good.
Awesome. Well, our other goal is just to finish this podcast. And
all right, let's do that.
So we've got our first one done of the new season. We will be back. We'll actually start planning it right away so we can actually do the next episode. It should be coming up in like 3 or 4 months. No, it'll be hopefully in the next few weeks. We'll like at least a couple weeks or 3 weeks. We'll have a new episode coming out. So, thank you for joining us again. We're on YouTube. We're on all podcasts. Everywhere. We've got a Facebook group. We got like a Facebook page, which we're always managing. Like we were on top of things.
We're putting random things up there every once in a while.
All the time. Every time we do this, I always say the social medias that we have, like Instagram and Twitter. I'm going to be posting on those all the time.
Yeah.
2022 is the year I will be actually managing these. Like every day, I'm going to take a few minutes and post something on them every day.
Mark his words.
They are marked. They are 100% marked.
Mark his words.
In fact, this season, this whole season is going to be the season of the social media.
Nice.
So you're going to be like, oh my God, there's a brand new trailer. I'm going to start tonight with the Star Wars trailer. That's the first thing that I'm going to put that up on our Twitter tonight.
Excellent. All right, I'm marking.
Unless I forget, then I will not put it on the Twitter,
right. That's more likely what will happen. Yeah.
Well, thanks for again joining us. It's been a bit, so thank you, and we'll try to keep some more consistent podcasts. And we will see you next time on Loop and Larry, Guardians of Geek.
Bye-bye.
Produced by Matthew C. Loop and Lawrence Simner. A Loop and Larry production.
Bueller.
He likes it. Hey, Mikey.
Bueller.
Bad news. The fog is getting thicker.
And Leon's getting larger.
Inconceivable.
Brian's right. It's an elf.
Wax on.
Does Barry Manilow know that you raid his wardrobe?
Oh, Captain, my captain.
Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
Wax off.